My name is Ray Sheath. This is the 11th newscast of the weekly series that started on May the 11th this year. We hope you have managed to catch them and download the manifesto and 21st Century People's Magna Carta. People are beginning to sign the charter on our website, and we have started to send out calls to action to the cohort of signatories. We have also just held the first People's Constitutional Convention, to be reported on soon, with the next convention planned for November the 7th. From all this activity, we hope you will get a sense of our call for systemic change to mend a broken political and economic system. I would like to consolidate the message of systemic change. Questions are now being raised in unusual quarters, and a cacophony of civil society voices are beginning to protest, and single-issue campaigners are focusing hard, and social movements beginning to appear, all about the scale of the social injustice everywhere. The suffering and poverty of people around the world is a disgrace. All these voices will probably agree that the narrow political and economic dogmas being pursued by governments and supported by business corporations clearly do not work, except in the interest of the keepers of the financial system. The political class has accepted the fiscal austerity dogma, and as the latest UK budget demonstrates, it is going to get worse. The austerity state and the capitalist system, particularly the mutant form that is global corporatism, form an alliance, and this alliance is being carried out under a false veil of democracy. As an example, the UK government was elected by 24.5% of the electorate and cannot possibly claim a mandate for its policies. Not unconnected with the economic and political ideology of neoliberalism that is being foisted upon us are the attacks on public interest institutions, such as the BBC, and on public protections, such as the Freedom of Information legislation and the European Convention on Human Rights. And even more specific voices and campaigns are being born every minute. The result is a fragmented response to all that we see around us. What is heartbreaking is that these voices usually focus on one small aspect of the impact this is having on people. The voices are not orchestrated and not talking with others, and are allowing their particular analysis and solutions to deafen them to the systemic approach required for the fight back. And they are either not talking practical solutions, or they offer small-scale prototypes that simply do not go anywhere near to the heart of the matter. There are no practical alternatives or solutions being put forward that could go to scale and challenge the system. We need new foundations for society. Take an example of this fragmentation. I went to a research festival this last weekend on well-being, organised by the University of Cumbria and the Braithwaite Trust, whose mission is to improve the life chances of young people. It was an impressive affair, with two streams, 40 academic research papers presented in Twitter time slots of 15 minutes, and a conference of keynote speeches, sages on stages, world cafes, open space, round tables, interviews with pundits, and numerous extramural activities. Over 200 good people attended, and the themes were new leadership, education, enterprise sustainability, and taking community development to scale. Here are my brief observations. Some good questions arose, particularly from Joe Confina of The Guardian and from the 200, such as, how do we get people to care? What role for technology? How to deal with the intergenerational clash to come? Are new enterprise models really changing the way we work together? But there were no good answers, except the usual villains of sets of principles and a plethora of incomplete models that cannot go to scale and will not pinprick global capitalism. Some good observations too, especially from Mark Drewell of Foresight Group, such as, we are the enemy. We are the enemy. but no space to follow up the meaning of that and actions required. And from John Foster of Lancaster University, we need an escape from the Enlightenment hubris that has led us to act beyond our powers in order to control the world. The demographics of the 200 were not analysed by the organisers, but I observed 50-50 male-female, 25% academic, with the majority from the voluntary sector, and very few business people, politicians, scientists, artists, church people, etc. Swathes of society were not represented. And everyone, sages, pundits, and the 200, were using language and hierarchical forms of our culture today. No one can escape how deep the culture has penetrated us. No one had anything of note to say about how change might come about. Richard Little of Impact International thought that collapse, which is not an unknown phenomenon of societies of our species, as Jared Diamond testifies, collapse might be the only way to bring about real change. But a structured, collaborative process for systemic change could realise the dreams of all these voices and make the change that is so necessary. It will be an uphill struggle, because mindset and behaviour change by all the people is what is required, and our voices can only ever be a catalyst. Therefore, a challenge for you. There needs to be a completely different well-being event that runs inside day-to-day life and at scale, showcasing another way of living. Voices from every sector and demographic in society need to put aside for one moment their campaigns, conferences, books, journals, podcasts, blogs, and come together as trustees all, and demonstrate an alternative society to the uninvolved, the uninformed, and the uncaring. A framework for such an event will be published later. Let us know what you think of this challenge to action. Thank you for listening.